to have you on the show, mate. I'm super excited to talk to you because I know you've been, like me, you've been in the industry for a long time. It's, let's just say, seasoned. I mean, I'm going a bit white myself, mate.
Oh, mate, but tell me about
it. But yeah, I know you've got a really interesting background, and I thought we'll start on a bit about yourself.
Well, look, these days, obviously, I'm sort of in the personalisation space. I sort of run a personalisation technology, but I can't cut my teeth in media. So that's kind of where I sort of, learnt the industry and came out as a young fella, in through media sales and predominantly in the tech media industry. Back then, print was king, and pretty quickly technology media evolved into digital. But yeah, media sales, ad director, and being a young publisher of sort of business and tech media publications, PC World, which you might remember from the old days.
I do. Actually, yeah, PC World magazine. That was, it was.
Back when you had 350 pages of magazine and 150 pages of ads. Unbelievable.
Yeah, 100%. It was really good. It's actually interesting. Net Guide magazine was the other one as well. Yeah.
So, I mean, back then, every brand advertiser used that media, and every reseller sold off the page at the back.
Yeah.
And they were the first to embrace digital. Those advertisers back then, it was the HPs and the Dells and Compaq, those sort of brands.
Yeah,
they
brands.
were the first to embrace digital media, as well. So it allowed me to sort of come through and see firsthand how those big tech brands were leading in the tech space, and then gradually, migrate into sort of technology media. So I cut my teeth on that and wound up at Fairfax in a B2B global media role there, running their B2B media division.
Right, and I read your title, mate, and I have to say I was so impressed. I didn't know, because I've known you for so long. We've been around the scene for so long, and I'm like, so you're like the international GM of technology media or something. That was like your title or something, wasn't it?
I hope I didn't self-assign that, but to be honest, it was actually an interesting role. They'd acquired another B2B media business that had operations in New Zealand, England, Hong Kong, Singapore. And it was MIS, and it was CFOs, it was B2B, technology media, business media. And I was the international manager for all of those global offices. We were a little island in the Fairfax
in the big pond.
Bin Review business media world. So fascinating role, and leading big sales teams, advertising sales teams, and talking to technology companies every day of the week, more or less from an advertising perspective. And then I did a hard 180 after about 3 years in Fairfax. I did a hard 180, sort of was a little burnt out on the corporate and wanted to sort of roll the sleeves up and go to something that was little different, a little more hands-on, and a little more cutting edge, and something where I had a bit of skin in the game. And met a couple of guys who had just started a business called Get Price, which was a price comparison engine. Really smart guys. And at that time, price comparison engines were really some of the largest shopping traffic websites in the country.
Yeah, they were. They were huge. I mean, if you wanted to buy something online, you would go to Get Price. A lot of retailers never really sort of thought, well, people are shopping on price at that point even. So the whole concept of, hey, you can get a price online. Like, I think the naming of it, I think the timing of it was just genius. I thought it was, fantastic. So kudos to you and those guys that started that. It was really good.
Yeah, so look, we rode the wave, but it was pre-Google shopping. Well, it really did, and it got Google's attention, because at the time there were 2 or 3 of major comparison shopping sites, and they were taking most of the traffic. I think we at one point went from 500,000 visitors a month to about 4 million, and I think eBay at the time was about 8 million. So this is 2008.
eBay was huge back then too. Everybody was going to eBay for everything.
Absolutely. And the other difference was back then the traditional bricks and mortar retailers hadn't embraced e-commerce. So we were dealing with a whole little economy of pure plays like Deals Direct, OO, Grays Online.
Grays Online. They've been around forever. Grays Online. Yeah. And I remember Matt from eWave. He was the only real serious online payment gateway. He really killed it. He was such a smart guy, and I remember I spoke to him a while ago, and I haven't spoken to him for years. And he, I wrote my first website in ASP.NET. And this was before Google, and I used a platform called VP ASP.
Yeah.
And it was the first off-the-shelf platform that you could buy, and it only had a plugin for his gateway.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was so like so that was so VPASP was like one of the first actual kind of like big commerce or sort of Shopify where you could, just install it, and the hosting cost me $1,500 a month for that. I remember.
Yeah, right.
It was so expensive, so I built my own server and everything. Anyway, long story short, okay, that's probably for another podcast one day. I'll get Matt on. We'll have a chat to him.
Well, no, he was interesting, and back then we all shared leads. So I remember we actually did a deal with Matt about cross-selling.
Really?
So if they were a Get Price customer and signed up to that, and vice versa. You still see that collaboration in e-commerce today, but back then it was even more important because no one really took e-commerce that seriously then, even the big brands. And so it was us really pushing the industry forward. And eventually
Harris Technologies. Do you remember them? Harris Technologies? They were that would have been one of your big ones. Yeah.
Well, they were actually our biggest advertiser. They used to do catalogs in the back of the PC mags.
Mate, do you remember? That was so. They were like a Bible.
Yeah. They were telephone books, and they would insert their catalog in 100,000 copies of a PC World magazine. The pre-internet days. Unbelievable. Anyway, News Corp actually bought our business, Get Price, which was in 2010. So it got the attention of the big media companies. And that
was an amazing result.
It was, yeah. We bought it back in 2012, and then re-established ourselves, launched a company, Next Commerce.
I remember that.
We took Get Price, and we also launched a discovery business called Hint and a fashion discovery business called Trover.
Nice.
So we sort of extended that as people started shopping less on price, and they were more looking for, it was more visual and discovery, and that's why we had to sort of extend the range into that, and sold that business to Future Publishing in 2016. And at that point, I took a big deep breath and said, what do I want to do from here? And interestingly enough, Brilliance had been on my radar because we'd been watching what they were doing, and I think they were just about the only personalization platform back then. They launched in 2009.
Wow.
So they were so far ahead of the curve.
No, that's definitely a great product. And I think when I was at Bingley, I remember at the same time we were having there was a huge boom in mobile commerce, and we just couldn't get the customer to convert. We were having like horrendous conversion rates on mobile customers. And I was actually part of the agency that I was using at Bingley, Fontes and Lloyd Hazlitt, actually, we sat down and we strategized a bit, and he said, look, I think you should go responsive as a responsive design. And everybody had apps at the time.
I remember.
Apps in the App Store, and Harvey Norman had just launched their app, and I think Gordon Nugent was running it at the time.
He was.
Good old Gordo. And then, so, I took a massive hit. I remember this because I was getting so much pressure to have, why don't we have all the buyers? Why don't we have an app? And then literally, and the conversions were so bad. I was starting to feel the pressure a lot, and then all of a sudden there was this sort of flip. I think people just did not trust the device because it was so, they just weren't used to, like, it had gone from the BlackBerry to now iPhones. People had a browser. They just weren't in that. It was only a few years in. It's like 5 years in. They weren't really trusting the device so much to shop and buy. You wouldn't buy a washing machine or a TV on your phone, and nobody could get the concept. I'm like, guys, we don't need an app. We need to go responsive. We launched a responsive site. Then everybody backtracked, and they had millions of URLs in Google SERPs that were all pointing towards apps, and it was just an absolute shit fight. And we started to outrank everybody. Bingley did, because our URLs were clean, and that decision very early on from Lloyd and myself to go responsive saved the company millions of dollars. And it wasn't until we started looking at the engagement on mobile commerce and trying to redefine the experience, we started looking at recommendations very early on, and recommendations and how Google spoke very early. I think it was 2014 or 2015. Google introduced a concept called mobile moments. They were saying that they did a huge study, and they said people have these mobile moments in search, or where and micro moments, I think they called them as well, buzzword. But it was more like when it's sort of brain to keyboard. Now your phone is now replacing your computer, And I think they were really concerned because they could see that a lot of retailers had not invested enough in recommendations, in personalization, in the mobile experience. And I think that sort of led to, what we actually are seeing today is this sort of this mobile customer, and the future of discovery, I really feel is in that mobile experience. Maybe tell us a bit more, Matt. I'm super interested because I in full transparency, I was a Brilliance customer. David Shepherd, actually, who's over now, is actually over at Google. We
Google,
sat down we sat down and we did a lot of strategy around why mobile wasn't converting, and we were spending quite a bit of money on AdWords at the time. Now it's called Google Ads, but and we just, it wasn't until we started working with you guys, I think that's really when, we took the business from, both David and I, from doing about $5 to $6 million to over 150 million in 2019.
Yeah.
And we did it through personalization, and we did it through, I think the number one thing for me was not overcomplicating it. And I think one of the things I really, really resonated with Brilliance at the time, as you said, they were very early on. There were only a few players. We tried at the time. It was a product called Baynote.
Yes.
You remember Baynote?
Yeah,
and
I do,
the implementation wasn't great on our side. The product was good. We just couldn't get it to work. We tried a number of things, but Brilliance was the one that always tended to come out up on top for us at the time. And, it's all transparency. You're not paying me for this. But, I'm only speaking the truth as a retailer that's been in retail for 15 years. When you find something, sometimes, you want to shout it to the rooftops. You want to tell everybody how something like Brilliance can really change the dynamic of your business.
Yeah, no, look, it's interesting, and look, we value that relationship. A lot of our business does come through that referral network, so it's interesting. But I think personalization matters, and it's now mainstream for a reason. It's no longer a sort of a nice to have; it's now a must have, and for the simple reason that customers expect it, and I think retailers need it. And so to unpack that a bit, we've all become, I think, consumers have become conditioned to expect personalization in our everyday transactions. So even when you go down to your local barista and you get your coffee or tea in the morning, you can look at that barista. They all know your name. They know exactly what coffee you have, whether you have a sugar with it, whether you're buying it with toast. You could be 6 deep in the line and they'll just give you a nod.
It's great, isn't it? There's no better feeling, right?
No better feeling.
Yeah. You feel wanted. You feel like they know you as a person.
And it drives loyalty.
And for them, it's relevance, right? Everything about them is maintaining their relevance with you, because you could just walk to the next coffee shop and, there's some point of difference and relevance to that audience.
And I think personalization drives loyalty, and that's a really good example. Same with you find you're with Spotify and you're listening to beautifully curated playlists, and we take that for granted today that, personalization is actually driving discovery, right? Because you get Spotify or Netflix are giving you really great cross-sells based on real-time data. Yep. And that is driving discovery, and the discovery then drives engagement, and the engagement drives loyalty. So it's this self-fulfilling
prophecy, isn't it?
Prophecy so customers expect it. The other side of that is customers are now in 2023 starting to get frustrated if they don't get it. So we know we're giving up more data signals than we ever have, and we know that retailers are capturing that data. So we expect them to use that in a smart way. And, I have a pet, I'm a dog, and it's my only pet, and it's been my only pet for 6 years. And I shop at the same brand store, physical and online. So they have all the data signals on me. They know I don't have a fish. They know I don't have a cat. So I should be very simple to market to. And those actually, this brand I'm thinking of actually does it pretty well. I get pretty targeted messaging. But we expect that. And if I have to wade through 80% of content that is not relevant to me, where know exactly what dog food I buy and what medication and what treats, it can actually work the other way. So customers want it, and I think retailers need it, because retailers need an edge. And
they do. Yep.
Too often that edge has become price-driven. It's becoming too price-driven. It's always on sale.
That's right. Well, when you're selling pet food, for example, I mean, your only difference sometimes is your range, but that range is sometimes difference is very limited. So it's Bingley was exactly the same. We were selling TVs. Harvey's was selling TVs. you know, whoever else, you know, Video Pro. So we're and then appliances online, when they bought Big Brown Box, they were, you know, obviously trying to go into the brown goods space and stuff. So, you know, it's if your only point of difference is your service or your store locations, or your price or your range, it has to be a big difference in terms of range. Like, you know, Amazon, for example, obviously with its flywheel, is exactly how they grew that business, which is super smart, right? So, but yeah, you're right. I mean, personalization, in my mind, you've got to have it. It's got to be done right. Maybe we should touch on that a little bit. I mean, you know, it's not should I have personalization. It's sort of what kind of how deep is my personalization going to go in? This is in my mind.
Yeah.
And there is a bit of a creepiness factor, as you say. There are more intent signals, there are more data signals, you know, that we're giving out than ever before. Everything has observer tags these days. You know, watching your every move online, tracking your mouse, tracking pretty much everything. I mean, it was only just recently, even WhatsApp they were talking about was listening in on your conversations because the mic was activated. Now I don't know how deep that runs, but at the same time, you know, people get freaked out. So how do you find that sort of technology balance, I suppose, let's call it, between offering a point of difference to your customer through your brand and your range, your messaging, and, you know, it's that old saying, right product, right person, right time. But, you know, maybe how do you find that balance? How does Brilliance find that balance?
Yeah, so it's very topical, right? So there is now that balance you have to find with privacy. I work on the basis that your IT or your personalization should actually be invisible to a degree. So it should be a seamless experience. It's not about showing how many personalization tricks you have. It's about having a seamless integration into the total experience. And
Yep.
you know, if you go on Amazon, obviously does it better than anyone. You'd never feel creeped out by Amazon, but they've managed to make every cross-sell available to you in one click, and the ability to get to the checkout and then to transaction is so seamless in that experience. So it is virtually invisible, but they're using smart data signals to get you to that checkout as quickly as possible. So
Yep.
that's the first thing. Don't overplay your hand in the sense of trying to show as many tricks as you can. It's about being seamless integration.
Yep.
Also, we can get a lot of opt-in signals now. So there's a lot of permission-based personalization you can do, right? So when you're gathering all of this data, you've got loyalty programs, you've got your CRM, you've got people opting in for emails. There's various ways that you can capture what a customer does want to see and does not want to see. And so that's the other part is, you know, we do a lot of permission-based, you know, rather than just send somebody a browse abandonment email, we can trigger a little pop-up or message bar saying, would you like us to send you the items that you looked at? Because we know you also, you know, we know that customer might have also looked at the store locator. So we know they're about to go into store, but don't creep them out. Let's just ask them if they would like that so they can, you know, peruse those products on their phone when they go in store, things like that.
The thing I think a lot of retailers don't do well enough is understand the interactions that customers have with their brand and their website. And I think for me, one of the really cool things that I felt about Brilliance as a you know, the department running the department, I had faith in the fact that I think that if the owner walked over and asked me questions, I could pretty much answer them. You know, like these are we could see it, we could visualize it. But there's a sense of trust, I think, that the interactions that a software like Brilliance, for example, or a recommendation software is going to have the right nuance around the customer and a right nuance around that particular interaction. And I mean, that's a whole topic in itself, really. I mean, it's how far does that rabbit hole go in terms of technology? But I feel do you feel that Brilliance has really honed? You know, it's that saying, it's easy to make it complicated, but it's hard to make it simple.
Yeah, well, the difference with us is, and like every technology tackles personalization different, but we're actually a suite. So we try to be able to tackle personalization across every channel and every device and every area you can think of in the personalization world. Whereas an email provider might be tackling personalization in an email. What we do build in is suppression logic. So because we can run everything for a retailer, even if you qualify for 4 triggered emails, you don't get 4 triggered emails. So we have a suppression logic, we have priority links. So everything's got a rating so that if you fall into 4 different personalization rules, as an example, you will see the most important rule for that customer that we've designated. So if you're using
Matt, I got to say, I love your passion for this stuff, because it really gets my propeller spinning as well, to be honest with you. If I had a little propeller spinning here, I mean, it's super interesting, I think, because right now, I mean, if you're on Shopify or if you're on BigCommerce, your only point of difference, realistically, from a technology, now this is purely technology standpoint, is actually something like Brilliance, something that is doing and driving your personalization and your engagement, right? Your refactoring of your results, what products to show here and there. So this is why I think, like at some point it's going to become that, your point of difference is essentially how well you do this personalization piece.
Yeah, and I think the key to it is the ease of integration and flexibility. So there's really three levels. You've got brands that are using plugins. They might be smaller companies. They're using basic plugins to get started, but they run out of puff pretty quickly. They're not supported, and they're pretty quickly looking for a more robust tool. Then you've got your medium-sized business that's using maybe a personalization platform of some kind, but they might be using 5 tools. They might be using something for triggered emails and cart abandonment, another recommendation tool, another social proof tool. That's 5
becomes
scripts.
So hard to manage.
Yeah. And they don't talk. So personalization has to connect, right? So you need to know that if I'm running a social proof notification, that could be running in the recommendation widget. And the recommendation widget can be running in the cart abandonment email. And if you use different technologies, you're not going to get that seamless experience. And to your point before, that's when you start to creep out the user, because they're a little confused by what's going on. Whereas if you have a platform that can actually link all of those pieces, and you don't have to do it all, you just tackle one problem at a time, but you know that if you do expand to more, it's interlinked. And I think the other part of it is it must be real time. Personalization it has to be cross-channel, it has to be cross-device, but it has to be real time. And I think if you're not doing that, you're possibly not doing personalization in the true sense, and you're probably not maximizing the point of difference you could be giving your retail experience against the next player.
No, totally agree. Totally agree with that. Yeah. It's similar with serving ads. I mean, it's you want your ads and you want your personalization and everything else to kind of talk together, and your ads give off intent signals based on what campaigns they're in, where the source is, what the there's enough information for a marketer to be able to make decisions on what type of page should be displayed, what the product layout should look like. Is the person in the discovery phase, or are they actually at the end of the purchasing funnel? Are they now, with intent to buy signals? Are they actually now shopping on price or stock? Are they looking at where's the mouse? Brilliance sort of looks at all of that, doesn't it? It sort of looks at all of that, those intent signals, and says, okay, this person, maybe if it shows an exit intent, as you say, you've got a suite of products potentially to show a pop-up with an offer in it, or there are ways for you guys to actually try and keep the customer on page and stop them from bouncing, and you essentially get more out of your marketing spend, right?
Yeah, well, exactly. Well, I think any of the major personalization platforms are built on machine learning and AI, really. Every part of that process, from data collection, so being able to track the full digital footprint of a customer once they hit a website, that's sort of the start of it, and then being able to segment that data, and then being able to look at collaborative filtering, which is where you actually look at the patterns across a whole website. So you take all the signals. So we know this customer is looking at X, Y, and Z, but if we index that against the whole Bing customer database, what are they most likely to buy after they look at that Samsung TV? So we can start to build these patterns together. And all this is happening in the background, but it's basically machine-learned logic and algorithms working together. And then the Brilliance experience piece that the retailers take advantage of is just the ability to then use and unleash experiences that tailor that data. They don't need to get involved with the data. It all happens automatically. But they can say, look, I just want to run a campaign or a pop-up or message bar to anybody who's viewed a Samsung TV from Bing in the last 3 days, and where that product's dropped in price by 5% or more. We're going to target those customers. So it can be very micro or it can be macro. But I think
that's an interesting one, isn't it? Did you do? Because I mean, we in a couple of podcasts ago, I had Phil Majace. He was he's actually who I work with. Yeah. So I mean, he gave us some really great insights on what's going on with the economy and what the future outlook is. And I mean, as much as you can kind of cram into 50 minutes, but we could probably take one topic and talk for 50 minutes about it. But he's got so much knowledge in the retail space and in the industry. But one of the things I feel that it's starting to happen now, and I don't know if a lot of retailers, I wouldn't say a lot of them are very switched on, but some of them just, even some of the better ones, and I'm not going to name any names, but I jump onto their websites now, and I think they're missing a lot of opportunities which Brilliance could actually bring. And I think only one or two things need to be done really well. As you said, you mark that list off as you go, and you incrementally improve your conversions to a point where, I remember when we implemented a simple thing like abandoned cart emails on cross-device. We had a couple of issues, I think, originally, because there's privacy concerns around, you jump on your mobile device, you look at a particular product, and you jump on your computer at home. It's very hard to stitch some things together, and rightfully so. And that's to protect the customer, essentially, in their privacy. But just implementing the very basic email abandonment the right way, which we did the right way. And that's the key point. We massively increased our conversions. I mean, I think it went up something 300 odd %, conversions off mobile devices and then off the email campaigns we were sending out as well.
Yeah.
So it had this flow-on effect to these other channels as well, because people were then starting to see, and we knew when someone had already purchased something because it had all the conversion tracking tags. And I was seeing, big advertising companies having issues with understanding that I'd already bought that particular product. I don't need to see that ad anymore.
Well,
but you know what I'm saying? You come from the media space, you understand this. Like, it's just, you do one thing, you do it well. And I said this a few podcasts ago, then you move on to the next thing.
Correct. Break it down. I think, to your point about why you look at some of these experiences and they don't look too personalized, I think part of the problem is the term personalization is being generalized a little bit, and it's probably used in areas.
Actually, maybe let's go into that, because I think that's an interesting one. Because
look, we talk to retailers every day, and we consult to retailers, and we listen to retailers, and I observe. I can look at a website, and immediately, if you and I go onto a website and are viewing the same, or pretty much the same recommendations on the same product, they're not personalized. That's product to product correlation. That is, I would say, it's the start. It does have a place, but it's the start of the personalization logic journey. And I think what's happened is we've seen personalization become mainstream, and there's some great technology out there. I mean, some of the marketing automation platforms and some of the tech out there is outstanding. But I think it's almost become a buzzword where everybody wants to add on a personalization component. Whereas I think, and some of that can be done really well, but often you'll actually look at it and go, that's actually not personalizing. It is a recommendation tool. It's better than nothing. But to me, again, a personalization has to be real time. So I think retailers underinvest in it. So if you're running cart abandonment and product recommendations, you're on the journey, but you haven't solved the problem. And I think it starts with either, you don't even need to have the full strategy. I think you can start with a problem. We would say to a lot of retailers, what's the goal? And the goal might be, in the next 3 months, my mantra, the goal is purely increase average basket value and ensure that we can get another 1 or 2 items added to the cart. So on average, we want to go from 1.5 to 2.5.
Yep.
In the basket.
And basket size.
And so we can then take that and go, okay, based on that, looking at the suite, here are 4 techniques that we can use. We might do a pop-up recommendation widget at the cart page with a logic that looks at the cross-selling opportunities for the items that are in that cart at that point, positioned in a pop-up. We'll then run a message bar that targets users based on that cart content with a cross-sell at another product and get 50% off. There could be a free shipping live notification message, etc. So we can cherry pick for the retailer the solution for that. And I think retailers get overwhelmed by personalization because there's so much available in it. If you take suites like Brilliance and there's others, we have a lot in it. And sometimes you've got to simplify it, break it down to one component that's most relevant for you as a retailer that day or that month or wherever you're getting the pressure internally, whether it's conversion rate, you need to re-engage more shoppers. we're entering a really tricky period, right?
We are.
We're going to have new business is tough for retailers. So you've got two options. You need to re-engage lapsed shoppers and get them back to the site and get your active shoppers more active, return shopping. And you need to make sure that as users reach the website through whatever channel that they're coming there, that you're converting more of them. You must look at conversion rate optimization of those users. And I think, being in the industry a long time, I'm convinced that it's still the easiest, most affordable, low-touch way to do that is through personalization. No matter who you use, a personalization strategy is the simplest way to do it. With the way the tech is today, it's plug and play. Like it really is, and it doesn't need to be expensive. It's just simplifying.
Well, that's the other thing too, right? I mean, a lot of I know ecom guys they're under a lot of pressure to actually perform, and especially after COVID. And this is one of the things Phil and I spoke about. The value conscious consumer, where they're the customer is looking still. There's a desire for the Adidas, the Nike, the Dyson, the Sony TV, whatever it is. But they're looking for value in the price. So they're looking for offer or just a first price that's low. So the balance will be, I think in the future, a lot of retailers need to understand that it's not about the 20% off site wide anymore. It's actually about firing off the offer at the right time when that person is showing the right intent signals, because if they bounce and they go somewhere else, the likelihood of you getting them back is very, very low unless they're a loyal shopper. This value conscious consumer, just getting back to that point again, I think we're going to see more of that. As you said, the times are getting tough now for retailers. This pressure that's on these ecom guys, I think they're seeing it, they're feeling it, especially from C levels sort of down. And I think the reason, people are back out in the shops again, and Phil spoke about this. People are enjoying being out and socializing again now that, after the lockdowns, and they were stuck to shopping online. But one thing I realized pretty early on was people were forced to shop digitally. They didn't really have much of a choice, right? Because there were lockdowns. There was shops they were shuttered. You had to do either a click and collect, or you had to do, so you were limited. You were forced to actually experience that brand and how little they had invested in that digital experience, or how much they'd invested in it. And thankfully at the time, we were gaining market share. In fact, I think Brilliance and the personalization piece inside of all of that was key to actually making sure that when customers jumped on the site, they were seeing decent recommendations on the homepage. We didn't swap out the homepage completely like some brands do. And I know that's actually quite annoying, because you don't know whether or not someone's changed their mind and they're no longer looking for a particular brand or particular TV anymore. They actually want to, they want to start again and start fresh. And sometimes they don't show those intent signals. So you go back and you're seeing all the recommendations you last saw. And it's just as frustrating to be over personalized too. We're not anywhere near being able to read people's minds, of course, right? So there's only so much you can do. But I think that personalization, in my mind, is actually the future. But tell us about this balancing act, a little bit about the balancing act, privacy versus personalization. And what do you think are the sort of key things here retailers need to consider with this balancing act?
Well, I mean, I think, as I said before, it's keeping it simple. It's making sure that the things you do, using personalization to its major, potential, is not always just about lowering the price. So we talk even about value shoppers and things like that.
Yeah,
value is support, service, ease of use, getting customers through the funnel quickly. All of that is part of the value equation. It's not just the price. So, when I talked earlier about you can make customer experience actually a competitive advantage, that can give you an edge over another customer. We get frustrated when we can't find products easily, right? We get frustrated
100%.
when hate it. You get,
and the other thing frustrating.
The other one is, don't send me back to the beginning when I've left the site. You've got the data. So, we allow people now to pin items. You can pin items that you're interested in.
I do that all the time, to be honest. I've got 4 kids, and one of the things I use the most is the love heart button, or the pin, or the like button, because exactly. You want to. Sometimes they a lot of sites show you that your last viewed products, and they think the guy, the webmaster, let's call it, running the site, term from the 90s, thinks, oh, that's enough. Why do we need why do we need a pin button? You've got your previous. No, mate, that's not how it works, because I've already looked at that stuff. It's this having the experience of understanding and knowing the difference in that shopper's journey is super important.
So important. And I think one of the things that I don't think enough retailers do is this dynamic homepage personalization, where,
mate, 100%.
where you can literally, I might have been on Bingley and I might have bought a TV in the last 2 months, but once you're there now, you might be looking at a microwave or a soundbar. And so what we always put the highest weighting. I think any platform should put the highest weighting on the current session. So you never disregard the past, because there's some fantastic signals there. You still know their location, the price points they like to buy, and the brands they
you have your first party data. Does Brilliance consumes first party data? Doesn't
it's all first party data. We do local based storage, so
the
cookie world change doesn't sort of impact us, but I think the kind of experiences you want to build are real-time experiences. And there are a couple we did with weather targeting is one that I feel is, we talk about trying to...
Yeah, that's a big one.
Reactive sales. So if it's raining outside, we know umbrella sales go up. I think the Big Lee example we had was, we used to do, when it was a really hot day where the user was logged in at, if you're up in North Queensland and it's 30 degrees, there's an air conditioner promo that's running.
Oh, portable air conditioners. I mean, I want relief right now. It's going to be 40 degrees for the next 3 or 4 days. And, I don't have time to find someone to install a big split system. I just want to get cool right now. Yeah. And my current one's broken. So,
and the other one is time of day. Like, we're working with a major tea retailer, and the tea that people buy in the morning, there's breakfast teas and there's afternoon teas. And so we actually have completely different rules set up for different audiences. And obviously then we've got different territories. So you might be seeing iced tea promotions because it's hot where the user's logged in at, and an English, breakfast tea somewhere else. So being able to use time of day, weather targeting, those types of triggers actually gives you a competitive advantage. You're making it easy for that customer to want to engage with you, to want to transact, and to ideally return. And that's the nature of the game. It's not a race to the bottom on price. It should be about delivering an experience that is truly valuable to the customer. And I think the rest follows on. And as I say, don't do too many tricks. Just keep it simple and go in based on a particular goal or a particular objective for the site. You might be that your conversion rate's not converting on mobile. So we can come up with tactics that are specifically designed to that. And if you've got an agency, the agency can help you with that, but they're often going to be using a tool or a series of tools to do that. And that's where the personalization platforms or plugins or whatever you're using can have an impact.
100%. On that, I think one of the things I remember clearly was when we implemented the recommendation side. So we'd realized, I did a bit of work in Tableau, and we were talking to Eddie Peel just recently. He runs Data Cubed out of New Zealand and APAC. He's the co-founder there. We used our first party data to realize that if someone buys a Dyson vacuum cleaner, for example, or anything. So for example, you buy, I don't know, a computer, for example, that you're more likely within the next 2 weeks to buy a hand stick vacuum, for example, or you're more likely to buy, during COVID, you were more likely to buy a set of speakers and a mouse, but you didn't buy them straight away. Okay. So you could show them throughout the journey, those recommendations, and that had a top of mind influence next time. But if you, as you say, get them in and out of the funnel really quickly, the likelihood of them coming back within the next 2 weeks and shopping with you again, based on the fact you served them relevant recommendations, was about 50 to 60% higher in my experience, right? And like you said, you can take market share, and if you get them in and out quickly, I think appliances online, the number one proposition for them has always been their delivery service. So as an e-commerce business, you're actually a logistics company that's also a software company. And if you can learn from those who are doing it really well and implement that, and then learn from that and iterate quickly, then you can actually focus on parts of the business that need improving, and let the best of breed platforms take care of those other things. And I think when I look at, I'd been competing against appliances online for over 10 years, first with Big Brown Box,
Yeah.
and then then Thorn with Radio Rentals, and then I moved over to Bing Lee with Peter Crederis. The way that they've built their business of getting people in and out really quickly, getting the product to them as quickly as possible for as cheap as possible, has led Rise to just taking market share.
They have, and I think they're a really good example of the fact that personalization and that fantastic experience starts the minute that customer hits the website, and it doesn't end until that customer comes back and puts in a feedback form and a review on the product or the service.
Exactly.
So
yeah.
their whole iteration from how easy it is to find a product, when people attend, how quickly they get there, the types of people that deliver that product, and then the post-sale experience. That is all part, to me, of the personalization journey and experience.
100%.
Some of it through tech, some of it through people, but there's a strategy there that they've actually put in from the front to the end, and it's a real challenge for retailers even now, just to be able to be cross-channel and to take all the in-store data and be able to personalize based on that, and to be able to marry up your browse data with your in-store data. That's difficult.
Yeah.
So
do you have any boardroom conversations around that? How ethical any of this is? I mean, 9 times out of 10, these conversations have already happened between the director of marketing and the CFO and the CTO and the CEO and or the founder or whatever. And the last thing you want is for them to appear on a current affair because they've shown. I mean, I know there's some nightmare examples, and I remember being in the online retailing event over in Seattle, I think, and it was one example of Target. I think they was showing pregnancy testing kits or something to their father, and he quickly worked out on the home computer, and then he quickly worked out his daughter was pregnant, or like there's horror stories that you hear about that.
I mean, do you ads,
it was ads actually, so it wasn't actually on. Well, I think I also think they were doing on-site personalization as well. But anyway, do you have these conversations? And I mean, is it like we don't care, we just want more customers? I mean, what is the general vibe?
Oh no! Well, look, everyone treads very carefully on it now, and I think they're more ethical than ever.
It's good, isn't it? Really, in a way.
Well, and look, the customer always dictates that. So the platform will always sit in the background, and we will only ever pick up the signals they want. We will only send an email to people that they agree we should send them to. So the customer, the retailer, is always driving that program. We're just fulfilling it based on whatever their opt-in rules are. But we do have exclude product features in all of our. Like one was maternity, where you
like attributes, like product level attributes. So
you would actually exclude particular products from product recommendations and things like that.
Makes sense.
There's normally business rules that we will sit down and discuss with the customer prior to make sure that if there are any exclusions or anything that might be perceived in a particular way, we will move those away or exclude those from things like recommendation widgets or particular personalization rules. But you've got to be careful. But you do have full control, because we're just following the experience and the guidelines that the retailer sets.
So do you have an implementation team that would take you through some of the pitfalls potentially, or some of the gotchas that might be part of it, or do you do the implementation or hand over the keys, or maybe give a sense of how someone would engage with you guys?
Yeah, so we do all the setup. So we try to make sure the retailer really doesn't have to do anything beyond put the script on the website and maybe provide a data feed. And at that point, the retailer can step away, and we sort of through that script can pick up all the data signals and the like. But no, we walk them through it. We make sure that every single iteration of the website, whether it's a recommendation widget or rule, everything has to be previewed first. So we have preview links for everything that we do. And everything has to be customer signed off before anything goes live.
That's
staging
nice.
Environment. So the usual parameters.
You don't just push things into production without anyone knowing.
Well, it's not even that. It's just making sure that everything can be previewed as it would look in the site, but it's not live. So it's only you with the preview link that can see it. But the pitfalls really are around data. Like, I think the biggest challenge is an engine like ours can pick up and personalize based on any attribute you can provide. So the more attributes, the better. But that then means that you need to have your data sorted. So you need
product data
feeds with a lot of attributes, category trees that are reliable and consistent between the website and the data feed. And so we do that analysis work up front. So if we get a data feed, we'll say, can you add this? That doesn't match this on your website. So we do all that in tune with the retailer and give them advice on how to get that consistent. So in a way, that consulting is often good for the retailer because they're like, okay, didn't even know that, or that's great because it'll make our other marketing more effective as well if we have all those attributes.
100%. I mean, that's such a good point. And I just want to jump in here because I know in a previous life, I mentioned any names. I mean, I implemented a completely new CMS, and in the CMS was all new product data and data attributes. And we spent a huge amount of time. One of the content managers that used to work for me, brilliant guy, we spent a lot of time doing it, but I think a lot of it's been lost. When I look at the site now, a lot of it, they don't really realize how powerful. You really need to have teams of people, and I was outsourcing at the time, but you have to have unique content in those attributes. And a lot of the times we found, product information was incorrect from suppliers, or a lot of, or even data gets entered, incorrectly. Does, this sort of level of control within Brilliance to actually choose the attributes you want to personalize on, is it a sense that is it the more data, like with machine learning, we were talking about in the last podcast, the more data you guys have, the more likely, or the probability of having a better statistical significance to that particular session goes up.
100%.
Right? Yeah. So the more product data and unique product data that you have, the more likely shoppers are actually going to shop. The correlation between your data and the shopper, where the gap, I think, exists in my mind between product teams, buying teams, marketing teams. I go to some sites and I can't believe there's only like 1 or 2 attributes on a product. And I actually want to have personalization. And I think the best personalization is the type you don't notice, right? You're just shopping, and
that's it.
And it's all happening. How much, and this is more of a segue into a bit of a topic, and it's more about does Brilliance understand images? And we spoke about image recognition and personalization, or image recognition and data. Ed is working on one at the moment over at Data Cubed. Does Brilliance know what it's looking at? Does it understand that a black t-shirt is a black t-shirt without understanding the product, or having the product data with it to reinforce that learning? Or does it actually have any machine learning base? Because I know it's a super hard thing to do and do it right. I'm just curious.
You mean, is there a visual, like, are we picking it up visually, like a visual match of the product?
Yeah, exactly. So does it just like Pinterest knows when you highlight something that it says, it basically does a match, and it tries to find in the database an image similar to what you've chosen. Does it know that you're looking at a black t-shirt, has a print on it, for example, with the words? Does it do that type of image-based recognition, or not? Is it just purely based on feeds?
Yeah, at the moment it's based on attributes provided, really, and then we can enhance that out. It's not actually visually detected, although we're seeing now all this generative.
I was going to say, if you said yes, I was going to be really concerned, to be honest with you, because I know image recognition, and Ende was showing me some examples of, I think it's DALL-E 2, where it it can build AI generated images based on what you describe. So it's actually does it in reverse.
Well, exactly.
And it's so bad.
Well, there is this generative AI now, right? So retailers are going to be using AI to create product descriptions and add creatives and all of that. And I think I mentioned before that there's all this virtual reality now and augmented reality that retailers are tapping into, and there's a crossover between that technology and the personalization world that I think is really exciting. You've also got to have the attributes to know that those similar products would fit into that space. So you're looking at the size dimensions, the fabric dimensions, and all the attributes. And then once you've got so that's why the more attributes that you can provide a personalization partner, the better that experience will be, and the cooler the kind of features you'll be able to run, and the results will flow on the back of that.
I think, mate, e-com guys are too focused, and just e-commerce departments in general, and this is coming from years of experience. They're just too focused on what the site looks like, because that's what the CFO looks at. It's almost like in the old days when outdoor furniture guys in marketing would buy a billboard that, or a bus stop or something where the CEO lives, because he just. It's all about these impressions that people get on things. It's not about what actually works. It's about first impressions sometimes, and it's it's sad because in my mind, everybody should be focusing on their CMS, their product data, how clean it is. They should have teams of people working on unique descriptions, using AI. Now, AI is never going to replace human intuition. Hang on. It might at one point when it becomes sentient and passes the Turing test, but I think that the benefits and the flow on is everywhere. It's on your feeds to Google. It's your feeds to your personalization engine, your feed to your website. It flows through to your ERP, to your invoicing. Your product descriptions match your invoices. Your shipping labels match your ERP, which match your website. It goes through everything, and
it does.
And the net result is just a better experience for the customer because it starts with the personalization. You've been able now to identify accurately through the product data, that the collective recommendations and accurately, and which we know flows on to just buying more and spending more and having a better affinity to your brand. So, yeah, I mean, it's huge, isn't it, Matt? I mean, we're getting right on an hour now. I'm absolutely loving talking to you, mate. And I was going to go into some trends and predictions for you, but I think we could I'll get you back on if you don't mind.
Yeah.
In a month or so, and we'll catch up. Maybe we do it even face to face, even, and
it'd be great.
And have set up a couple of chairs and have it over a coffee. But I've got one thing for you, and I know you're a sporting goods nut, and I've got my Western Sydney Wanderers hat on.
Nice.
Your thoughts of the Matilda game, and I've got my my scarf here, mate. Kerr she had so much pressure on her. I don't know. I know how she missed those couple goals in the end, but
those legs were dead. I think, mate. It felt like, didn't it? She 100%. Had heavy legs, and
she should have been subbed after the first goal, I reckon. Now, the first goal was probably one of the best goals I've seen in the women's World Cup so far.
The England one or her
Sam's? The England one.
Yeah.
Mate, that was from outside. People don't understand what is actually. So I'm a huge soccer nut, right?
Yeah.
And they don't understand how honed someone's skill. That doesn't happen just by chance.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
She hit that at full pace. She had a couple of quick steps and she just cracked that thing in the top corner.
Oh, totally.
And mate, honestly, as a coach, I know there's coaches around the world going, whoever's got her, mate, they're
unbelievable.
Mate, she's unbelievable. And then she had a lot of pressure on her. I feel Rasso, she killed it, but she wasn't performing in that last game. And, I just felt like the team had kind of thought that they'd achieved what they'd set out to achieve. And I feel like maybe the coach didn't kind of reset their minds again. They kind of came on field and thought, whatever happens from here, we've done an amazing, one of the biggest achievements in sport. What do you think?
I think their motivation was huge. I think you've got to give a bit of credit to England. I think that was actually a perfect hit job, really. Like they were
100%.
precise and accurate in. When teams just play aggressive and they're kind of defensively like.
Look at Jamaica. Did you see Jamaica against Colombia?
I missed that one.
My friend's Colombian and Carlos and we were having jokes and stuff. But mate, they were getting chopped left, right, and center. But Colombia just kept going. I kind of felt like it rattled the Aussies a little bit. Don't you feel?
I'd love to say we were robbed because I always love saying that when we're playing England. But
they did a
good job on it. And I'm like, maybe nobody Wallabies can inflict some reverse pain.
Let's
hope so. Mate,
A lot of people don't know. You've got a sporting goods company that you run as well, don't you?
Yeah, I've got a business called Warrior Sports, which is sort of sports retail. We have an e-commerce business, but we also sell direct to clubs and schools. We do sort of equipment and apparel, but you know what? Look, I've spoken to retailers, about how to get traffic, through Get Price for years and years, and then for the last 7 years on how to convert it. And it's really interesting, living a day in the life of the retailer, and I actually think it hones what I do.
I'm actually a retailer. I'm not a podcaster.
Yeah.
I am a podcaster. That's what I'm doing now. But and I also help people make decisions in business. And it's just a simple discussion that just kind of points things in the right direction. Just that little bit. You just need that little bit of reassurance. And someone like me can come into your business and say, hey, like what I think you should do is implement something like Brilliance. When you know something works and you know it works well and you can trust in the people that the implementation is going to be good. So yeah, all right, mate. Well, look, every guest gets a little gift, and I've got this one for you. It's a Digital Discovery Podcast mouse mat.
There you go, mate.
These just came in, and I've got a mug as well, and I've got a T-shirt as well that's coming.
Mate. You're a good man.
I know, as I said, I know you're in sporting goods. I want to show you these things, and this came in. I'm a sucker for things on Instagram, and I bought this. I don't know if you've seen these before. It's called the Playmaker LCD. Have you seen this?
I should be selling those.
Yeah, you should be. And I tell you, it came from Canada because I was tracking the shipping on it. And mate, so
like
as a coach, right, I'm sitting here and I'm going, run your little shits now. I'm just saying, like,
that's awesome. Yeah.
See this?
Yeah.
Right. And then you can go, all right, so that's a bad example, but I just did that on purpose because then you can just go like this. Oh, hang on. No, I've locked it. It has a lock button on the side where you can lock it from
not being deleted.
Yeah, so then you hold the button down and that's it. It's gone. Right. Did you see that?
Because we do the whiteboard version, but I like that. I think that's cool because AFL uses a lot of that as well. In positional play.
Yeah, exactly. So you can say there's your back line, and then you got two here. You want to go goal side, and then when in defence, you want to come back to the posts and defend, and then you're going to bring, like
the old Etch sketch. What was it? The one we used to...
Mate, that's exactly what it is. It's just, I'm a sucker for it. I'm like, what? That's actually just an Etch sketch.
Yeah, it's a retro. I like it. Yeah, you'll have to show me one of those. I think they're pretty cool. I reckon that might throw those up on the website.
Yeah, mate. I think you should. I think you got a winner there.
I need to give you some footies too to test out.
Yeah, I'll have some footies, and I'll tell you
coaching?
Yeah, still coaching, and I'm doing summer soccer at the Western Sydney Wanderers, and that's why I've got my hat on.
Oh,
and any of the listeners out there that are interested, they should go onto the Western Sydney Wanderers website and register their soccer team for the Fives. So there's there's fives are on. Starts in September, 10th of September. So you've got to get in quick. And I was actually going to reach out to you because I ordered all the jerseys, but I wasn't sure if you did the personalization on jerseys.
No, we do all that. So we, our guy Ante.
See, I could have sent business your way.
We're going to go Ante Kovic. I don't know if you remember Ante. He was a goalie for the Socceroos. And he heads up our soccer division. So Croatian? He does all the soccer apparel.
Croatian, I think.
Yeah.
Oh man, I have to talk to him. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll connect that up, mate. We'll have a chat because he's the man, and the soccer kid is incredible because he's designed it all, basically redesigned it all over the last year. Soccer people are very particular in their gear, mate. It's a little different to the rugby and the league world and the AFL world. They want streamlined. It's like European cuffs, and
Yeah, they are. They're very particular, and I mean, obviously, mine are 13 boys. So they just get what they're given.
That's true.
But they're excited this year because for soccer. So we were in the finals last year at the Wanderers ground. We were in the finals. We just lucked out to another team, better team. They were played. They had a couple of really good players, and all credit to them. Looking at all the different customized jerseys, you can see the really bad quality ones.
Yeah,
like they're that really cheap kind of they look like plastic almost. The material doesn't look. And it doesn't. It says it's sweat wicking and all that, but you can see. But the Liga ones look really good. So I'd be really interested to see and talk to him to see what his stuff is like as well. So anyway, I mean, something worth the chat later. Anyway, mate, look, it's been fantastic talking to you, mate, and you're looking well. And I hope to talk to you again soon. And thanks for your time for coming on the podcast. And
always a pleasure.
Enjoy the rest of your week.
Yeah.